Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's Valentine-ish edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I haven't done a story time in a long time, and my son actually came across a very interesting article about conversation hearts. So let's talk about the history of conversation hearts. I think conversation hearts are one of those things that you either love or you hate. I don't love them and I don't hate them. They do make cute decor. If you don't like them, buy a bag, recycle them year to year. That might be what I do. Right. So I had no idea about this. The National Retail Federation estimates that Americans spent, wait for this, $26 billion on Valentine's Day last year. And I'm like, no wonder we're all battling our weight, right? Conversation hearts were the most popular candy sold in 17 states. Don't have a list of those states, but this also blew my mind. 13 million pounds of candy hearts are sold in the 6 weeks preceding the Valentine's Day holiday. But what I didn't know is conversation hearts have had a long, complicated history for over 100 years. Oh my, who knew they were that old? There's been recipe changes, acquisitions, and almost they disappeared completely and were discontinued back around 2019, 2020. So in honor of talking about conversation hearts, I'm wearing my Love and Faith shirt and some heart earrings, a little bit of pink, showing my less than perfect Valentine's Day box. But I do remember conversation hearts as a very young child. And I thought, wow, okay, I'm almost 63 and they've been around as long as I can recall. So when you think about that, it's not so surprising that they've been around for over 100 years. So they actually go back, and y'all, I do have some talking notes if you see me looking down, to 1847. I'm like, who knew? But they weren't candy. A machine was developed to make the candies, but it was originally used for medications. Who knew? So the pharmacist named Oliver Chase developed a lozenger cutter for apothecary use. So, you know, I'm thinking like sore throat lozenges or maybe headache lozenges. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. He realized that he could make candy out of that same process. So he founded his own confection company. He eventually merged with other companies to make the New England Confection Company. And this blew my mind. Guess what the first candy? If you saw a recent community post, you'll guess it. Yeah, the first thing they made was Necco wafers. Pardon me. In 1866, the founder's brother, who was also his business partner, his name was Daniel Chase, developed a letter stamping system. And I'm like, people are so creative and so business savvy and entrepreneurial. Like, who would have ever thought that developing a letter stamping system would have made for a booming business of $26 billion of candy, not all candy hearts. But the hearts actually didn't come along until 35 years later. So this is going to blow your mind. So what were the first shapes? Postcards, okay. Horseshoes and shells were very popular shapes at first. Because they were larger, you know, think about the size of a postcard, the phrases were longer. And so one of the phrases included, "Please send a lock of your hair by return mail." Okay, I'll get right on that. But you'll have to realize that was you know, late 1800s, so times they were different back then. In around the turn of the century, they shifted to the heart shape, so they were smaller with much simpler sayings. Some of the messages at first were, marry me, love you, kiss me, sweet talk. Those are the kind of messages I kind of remember. Over time, they included like popular automation that had been developed, you know, like text me or fax me, not text me, fax me or page me. But other early 1900s included 23 Skidoo, Go Fly a Kite, and I'm not going to go into, I'm sure you all know, meanings of phrases have changed over the years. So there were other phrases that they had to retire because the implications became different over time. Not only did the messages change, but the recipe changed over time. I would have loved the original recipe, and I swear I remember them being like a clove flavor, but the original flavors were clove and sassafras, and then they changed to kind of, you know, the chalky fruity that we know today. I also remember wintergreen. So going forward, Necco changed the formula. Why wasn't a good thing? In 2010, because they wanted them to be softer and have more flavor. The public hated them so much, they called them mushy tabs of sadness. The pushback was so intense that what they did was they went back to a recipe more similar to the original. I am sure in 2010, new ingredients were available to them, and it may have also been a cost factor. The article really didn't say, but you know, profit is everything, right? So did you all know this? I mean, we all know when the pandemic hit, everything went like crazy 2020, but wait for it. Necco's version of the candy hearts are called sweethearts, were called sweethearts, but then Brock's came along and developed their own version of the candy heart. Now, if I have to eat a candy heart, I actually like the Brock's better. They're a little bit softer, and they're also a little more fruity flavor, I think. But they developed their own version around 1950. And over the next 70 years, Brock's grew greatly in size to outsize Necco. So sadly, I'll never have Necco wafers again. In 2018, who knew, Necco filed for bankruptcy, and they sold off different divisions of their candy making. They actually passed the candy hearts or the conversation hearts to Spangler in 2019. So the Spangler makes, of all things, Dum Dum Suckers and circus peanuts. So if you've never had a circus peanut, you're not a US-based person. A circus peanut is about this big. It looks kind of like a peanut in a shell, but bigger. They're orange, and they taste like banana. And my grandma, fun fact, my grandma Victoria was always a very thin person, and she would go through stages where she ate only one thing. And for years, it was circus peanuts. So every time I see them or smell them, it just brings back, you know, good memories. My grandma passed in the 70s, so she's been gone quite a while. So the new parent company, Spangler, they saved the rights to the conversation hearts, but they didn't produce them. So did you know, this is why you should always save your conversation hearts. In 2019, they didn't produce any conversation hearts. And in 2020, they had production issues. So all the hearts they sold were blank. I'd be like, what a ripoff. That's half the fun is reading the sayings. So how has the conversation heart lingo changed over the years? Well, for a while they had like animals, you know, like you're perfect and things like that. Now, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but this is what it is. It's situationships. Almost made it through without hiccups. Apologies, y'all. Situationships. I'm like, what? How do I not know what that even is? So it's perfect for the confused singles everywhere. Well, I'm not confused. I'm a little confused by situationships, right? And the sayings that are produced by Spangler are as blurry as your relationship. And I quote. So I had purchased like a big bag so that I could fill up a lot of my decorative candy jars. This is made by Camby. They're out of Dallas, Texas. If you've ever read the ingredients, sugar, corn syrup, dextrose, glycerin, beef gelatin, citric acid, natural and artificial flavors, whole bunch of colors, made in Canada from domestic and imported ingredients. And it's packed on shared equipment with peanuts, other tree nuts, milk, soy, sesame seeds, eggs, and wheat-containing products. It's just like an allergy waiting to happen. So I'm like, okay, let's read a few of these sayings and see what it says. How 2024 is it really? So some of them are, oh lordy, as blurry. There you go. That one says love you. Nobody eat out of this jar. I wash my hands. Miss you. Too blurry to read. Be mine. So these are pretty traditional. TTYL, talk to you later. Cutie, that's a good one. No saying. Laugh. Bro. Or bruh. Can't read that one. Call me. Hug me. So, there's a few talk to you later kind of things that are really 2020-ish from this particular company. But I thought you might enjoy hearing about the history. I was so surprised. And originally I thought, oh, I'll make something, not out of that jar, with the conversation hearts. And then I'm like, yeah, I can't eat it anyway. Well, I don't want to eat it anyway. I could eat it. Believe me, I could eat it. Like cupcakes with candy hearts on it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's story time. Little different video. I thought I would get away a little bit from talking about the pantry challenge. It's kind of occupied my ever-waking moment. I'm always trying to think of what I can create for meals to avoid the grocery store. I'll be ready to go. Today is February 4th. And I will probably end the pantry challenge on the 19th because that will be 2 full months since I've been to the grocery store. And that's the goal. And just continue to try to be mindful and a good steward of the food that I have in the pantry. So if you do me a big favor, go ahead and smash that like button. Drop me a comment below. Do you like conversation hearts? What do you think about the fact we didn't have any in 2019 and they were blank in 2020? I'm like, did I not buy candy? Well, probably not. Because my mom didn't like them and my mom was a big chocolate eater. So usually when I bought candy, I would buy things that she would eat. All right, guys, I will see you a little later this week. And until then, you know what to do. Be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.